Welcome everybody, and welcome to the first Empathy Surplus Congress. My name is Chuck Watts, and I live in Wilmington, Ohio. I'm past president to the Empathy Surplus Congress and the Zoom master, and call these hearings to order on Tuesday, June 8th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm filling in for Anna Bruffy, our president, who lives in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and she may join us here shortly. And we may have Greg, in fact, Greg Kennedy is actually joining us as we speak. So I'll ask Anita Lewis to introduce herself, Anita, and then invite somebody to do the same.
Okay. Hi, Tony. Hello, everybody. I'm Anita Lewis. I'm a registered nurse. I still work, although I'm retired from the VA in Dayton, Ohio. I live in Greene County. And I started working internationally down in Guyana in 2019. And my big issues are solar power and water sanitation and hygiene. And Maribeth, how about you?
Hi, I'm Maribeth Bevis, and I'm coming to you from the northern Cincinnati. You can't hear me?
Having trouble hearing you, Maribeth.
All right, I'll turn it up a little bit. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. My name is Maribeth Bevis, and I'm coming to you from northern Cincinnati, and I am a senior fitness specialist. In my previous life, I was a middle school teacher. Gave that up and turned my teaching skills to teaching elderly people, how elderly people stay fit. And that's who I am.
Miriam?
I'm Miriam Speaight. I live in Wilmington, Ohio. Been farming here with my husband since 1981, so that's 40 years. We also have been in retail equipment sales, retired from that. I'm now a Quaker pastor, and yeah, there you go.
Greg?
Hi, my name is Greg Kennedy. I am an HR professional and have been for over 25 years. I live in Painesville, Ohio, and I think that's all I want to say at the moment.
Welcome, Greg, and Tony Erhardt is my guest today. Tony, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are?
Sure. My name's Tony Erhardt. I'm from the Northeast Ohio area, and I've been involved with Senator Sherrod Brown's campaign staff in varying degrees since about 2017. So glad to be with you all today.
Thanks, Tony. So I'm going to pull up our opening here real quick, and let's see here. See if I can find my screen sharing. And Tony, feel free to participate or observe, just whatever you feel like you want to do.
All right, thanks.
So our Empathy Surplus Congress is a community of practice. Every day we promote the idea of stronger people, progressive markets, better futures, effective government, love by and for the people, and mutual responsibility by practicing four empathic activities. We inwardly digest and use the latest insights of Dr. George Lakoff to frame daily caring conversations to promote human rights. Invest in a weekly congressional hearing about how we apply Dr. Lakoff's insights to advance caring policy directions. Implement caring policy directions, partnerships with ethical businesses, effective government task forces, and other caring society organizations. Invite others to join us and promote a politics of care. All right. So, well, we spend our first few minutes after introductions sharing with each other what we've been doing over the last week that has where we've been engaged in the Four Empathic Activities. And I've spent the last week, I guess, in I'm not sure how to categorize it. I've been implementation and maybe inward digest, been working on the website. So if you haven't been to empathysurplus.com in a while, I hope you'll go and check it out. It's got a couple of new pages, and I really appreciate our web guru, Sue Reynolds. Give her a plug at Carmine Media. And we finished a Stronger American page, which is where our Human Rights Pocketbook venture is discussed. We've added a progressive markets. All of these are working group pages. We've added a progressive markets working group page. We're working on an effective government working group. I've sent that over to Sue, so maybe that'll get up today or tomorrow. So, Greg, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty good. I spent a couple hours yesterday getting signatures for my petition for candidacy for council at large. So it was interesting talking to all the people in my neighborhood that I did not know. And I was surprised that even a few Trump supporters signed my petition as well. So yes, it was very interesting. It was very interesting. So I after, this afternoon, I'll be going out today again to get more signatures, and I'm hoping to turn in my petition sometime this month so I can gear up for my campaign in September. So
good for you. You're
Thanks.
running as an
independent. Yes, I am. I'm running as an independent. Yes.
Yeah.
And that it's interesting. That resonated with a lot of people, by the way. So
yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So, Maribeth.
Okay, hi. Well, I'll preface it with saying some weeks my greatest empathetic thing that I do is I didn't strangle anyone this week. So hopefully I'm not alone in that feeling.
You're not alone.
Like that. So I didn't strangle anybody this week. Just continue to work on my Dress a Girl around the world. I was able to hit a really good sale at Joann's Fabrics, which means I'm kind of stockpiled my fabric. Am I too hard to hear again? I kind of stockpiled my fabric. I had a good sale, so now I can start making even more dresses for Dress a Girl around the world. So I'm still working on that, and that's about it.
Nice.
How about Miriam? Next.
Miriam, you're on mute.
Yep. Okay. So, of course, I gave my Quaker Radio Hour message, and I really work on the compassionate God idea there, because I think that is one of the places where this subconscious idea about this, powerful Father God that they've made, so important that there has to be one, dictator in charge. And so that's a subconscious thing that we have to counteract. So that's what I do in my messages with the Quaker Hour. But I'm very excited. It came out today that us Quakers, we have what we call yearly meeting. It's where we do all our business for the year. And it's usually at the end of July in district. and and we have fellowship and everything. We do business, and there's going to be one retreat, a pre-yearly meeting retreat, and the topic is how to talk to people with whom you disagree. And I thought, man, I want to be part of that, you know, presenter of some kind. So yeah, it's on my list today to contact the people that are planning that and get on the ticket for that. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Awesome. Anita?
That's nice. Well, I continue supporting my little family from Malawi that lives with us, and working with the people in Guyana who, yes, I would have strangled if I had been within reach, but now, oh, people just don't get on the same page, you know? Anyway, so I'm making big headway with my conservative neighbors who have gone through the phase of ignoring me and now reaching out to me, but about strange and odd things. So a very conservative neighbor who acted like he didn't like me called me yesterday to tell me that one of my birds had gotten loose, one of my guineas, and was at his back door and was being a jerk. And I thought, oh, that is hilarious. You called me to tell me my bird's being a jerk. And we laughed and we laughed. So I continue trying to be a role model for optimism and humor and positivity. So
That's great.
yeah.
Right.
Anybody else?
So Tony, you're welcome to share your efforts to be a caring citizen over the last week or not. You can pass or share some things as you feel free to do.
No, absolutely. I would just say, as someone who struggles with a mental illness, I have diagnosed depression. I try and be as cognizant in other people's struggles and adventures and traverses that they have daily with what may be going on in their life. So I just try and use my own experiences to inform how I interact with other people on a daily basis.
Good for you. Thanks, Tony.
It's very nice.
So Tony, did I send you, are you, I know you're on the phone, but can you see us or not?
No, I cannot see you guys. I can only hear you.
You're just listening. Okay, so did I send you the file, the PDF file for your Brains Politics Chapter 8?
Let me double check.
Well, it's okay. We're going to, this is a short, what we're going to be discussing today is on, if I did do that and you can see it, the section is 8.2, chapter 8, and the chapter is entitled Words with No Single Meaning, Communication and Contested Concepts. And this particular section is entitled Empty Words That We Don't Get, Metaphors for Communication. And since they're short, we typically read it. And so it doesn't matter if you didn't get it or not, because you're gonna be able to hear it. And once we've read it, our discipline is we're gonna go around and invite people to offer their how they're feeling about the reading quickly, less than 30 seconds, how they're feeling, and offer a word or phrase that jumped out at them or that the reading reminded them. And we'll do that quickly. And then once everybody's had a chance to do that, then we're going to come back, start over again, and you're going to get to talk, if you want to, about 3 minutes about your word or phrase. And before we start, I want to know who Greg's friend is.
This is Lola. She wanted to sit up here and figure out what I was doing. So, and plus provide me with some endorphins while I'm petting her. So.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Lola? Is it Lola or Nola?
It's Lola. Lola.
Oh, good.
L-O-L-A.
L-O-L-A, Lola.
Yeah, Lola.
I can remember Lola. My grandmother's name was Lola.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So that's great. So who if you've got the reading, who wants to be George and who wants to be Elizabeth?
I was Elizabeth last week, so I'd like to be George this week.
I haven't read in a while. I can be Elizabeth.
All right. I like that, Chuck.
I like that. We are not gender bound, are we?
That's
No,
right. We're not
no.
gender bound.
Okay, so all right, so let's see. So here we go. So and by the way, Tony, this is the reason we're doing these parts is this book is set up. If you didn't get that file, Elizabeth Whaling, Dr. Elizabeth Whaling, cognitive scientist, is interviewing Dr. George Lakoff, and they go back and forth and have a dialogue. So Elizabeth says, easy, one might say. The sender of a message wants to pass on an idea, so he or she encodes it in terms of a language system or code and passes it on to the receiver. The receiver then decodes the message, assuming he or she is fluent in the language being used, and communication is accomplished.
That's utterly false. It doesn't even come close to depicting how communication really works. The model depicts a metaphor that we use to reason about communication, namely the communication is object transfer metaphor.
This metaphor has an interesting, complex structure. For one, the act of communicating ideas is understood as sending objects back and forth between interlocutors.
Right, and in order to send ideas as objects, we need containers. Thus, we conceptualize words as containers in which ideas are being transported. We put the ideas into words, and then we send them off to our addressee. So there are two mappings inherent in the communication as object transfer metaphor. Ideas are objects, and words are containers.
Some of the cognitive inferences of these mappings are in order to send an idea to your interlocutor, you need to find the right container, one that fits the idea. You need to find the right words to transport your idea. You need to make sure that your interlocutor receives the container. That is, you need to make sure he or she can hear or read your words, and so on.
And this metaphor is omnipresent. It shows up in language all the time. We speak in empty words, putting a lot of meaning into our words and getting ideas across. We say to people, you know, you should choose the content of your words a bit more carefully, or I don't get a lot of meaning out of what you're saying.
Within this metaphor, the tasks for successful communication are obvious. First, we need to find the right container for our object, that is, the right word for our idea. Then we need to make sure that the container arrives at its destination, that is, our addressee must be able to see or hear our words. Finally, our addressee has to be able to unpack the container to see what is inside it. That is, he or she must share our language code.
Right. There's an important metaphoric inference to this mapping, and you just named it. We assume that once the words have been received, our interlocutor can unpack them and will find exactly the meaning that we, the sender, put into the package. It is assumed that if we share the same language, the idea I pack up and send to you is the idea you will unpack.
The metaphor construes the meaning of words as independent of their communicative context or the individual's conceptual system. In other words, the metaphor leads us to assume that if we reason about ideas as objects, then they are, well, objective.
Yes, whenever we reason about ideas in this way, we cannot help but to infer that they are objective, that they have objective meaning, because an object doesn't change its form just because it's being sent to somewhere or sent somewhere. What I package up is what you will unpack.
Meaning if I send a box of homemade nougat truffles to my aunt in Germany, she will presumably unpack the exact truffles I packed for her.
And since you send your aunt nougat truffles, she will not unpack chocolate marzipan truffles. She will unwrap the same nougat truffles you packed. But the idea that communication works like this is complete nonsense. The mere notion that we transfer ideas as objects is inapplicable to what we really do as we talk to each other, because the ideas we communicate to others remain in our heads. They don't cease to exist in our reasoning. They're not being taken out of our heads and sent somewhere else.
So the quote unquote problem with this metaphor, if you will, is that it disregards important facts about the reality of communication. Miscommunication, for instance, is not necessarily caused by choosing the wrong words for our ideas. That is, picking the wrong containers for our objects. And it's not just caused by our words not successfully being perceived, read, or heard either. That is, it's not that our containers didn't make it all the way across to our interlocutor. These things can happen, but they are not the biggest challenge in communication.
The biggest challenge is that words mean different things to different receivers. In reality, words as containers do carry different contents for different people. The receiver doesn't necessarily unpack what the sender packed.
When I send nougat truffles to my aunt, she might very well find herself unwrapping chocolate marzipan truffles.
In fact, chances are she will. The meaning of words is never entirely objective. The words that we receive are being processed through our conceptual systems and the configurations of our brains. Words do not denote the world as it exists per se. They only denote the way in which we perceive the world based on the biological functioning of our brains.
And welcome Anna Bruffy to our Congress.
Hey, Anna.
Glad you can make it. We have a guest today, Anna, Tony Erhardt from Senator Brown's campaign.
Hi, Tony.
And Anna's from Virginia Beach, and she's a natural fibers dyer. Did I say that right?
I'm a sustainable natural dyer of plant materials and animal proteins.
Awesome.
So yarn.
Awesome. Awesome. So hoping that you're prepared, Anna, because you missed the reading, but but you probably got your book. You could maybe figure it out. But I was feeling kind of frustrated about this chapter, this section, but I'm feeling better now. And my particular word or phrase is, my phrase is, framed repetition builds trust. Framed repetition builds trust. So Anita, do you have a word or phrase?
Yeah, my phrase is we perceive the world based on the biological functioning of our brains. Miriam?
Yeah, I found this section confusing, but I'm feeling a little better about it now. And the phrase that I chose is, the receiver doesn't necessarily unpack what the sender packed. Mary Beth?
Mine was pretty much the same as everyone else, just a different way of saying it. Words as containers do carry different contents for different people. Who's left? Anna, have you gone?
I'd like to pass just on this one because I'm behind. I apologize.
So Greg.
Maybe I'll figure it out by the time everybody's done.
So this relates to the naming of the phrase for last week, but my phrase this week is the subjectivity continues.
Okay, and Tony, might you have any feelings about this reading and a word or phrase, or you can pass and just observe?
Oh, sure. So, you know, the section talking about how the meaning of words is always subjective, I thought rang very true. And, you know, how one might interpret something, it can be completely different than how another person would interpret the same word or phrase.
Mm-hmm.
So so thanks, Tony. So let me pull up my, I've got a prepared thing. Not everybody does, but
Real quick. My other phrase is, this one just keeps jumping out to me. I don't get a lot of meaning out of what you're saying. So that's what I would like to go with.
okay.
And go ahead, Chuck.
So my phrase was, framed repetition builds trust. In fact, on page 2 of your Brain's Politics, Dr. George Lakoff told us right up front that humans cannot understand things as they literally exist in the world, nor can we talk about them in an objective way. And for more than 100 pages, Drs. Whaling and Lakoff have been changing our brains and building a new trust. Moreover, in today's section, Dr. Whaling writes, the experiences we make as we live in this world result in physical changes to our brains. And responding, Dr. Lakoff wrote, yes, the interesting question is, what determines the structural details of our brains? The answer is, in fact, to a large part, our experiences in the world. Framed repetition builds trust. Or as Drs. Lakoff and Whaling say, reframing is social change. And so as we near the end of our book, consider how intentional you've been in changing your thinking and language. I founded the Empathy Surplus Project to change brains from cultural warrior brains to strong, nurturant healer brains. Has inward digestion, investment weekly, implementation, and invitation satisfied a craving of yours? Are we becoming the strong change we need to see in the world? What must we and fellow Americans do to be strong enough to nurture and continue responsible empathic change in our centers of influence? Framed repetition builds trust. And one thing we've decided to do is shape the brains of our community's children around human rights education. Together, we created the Human Rights Pocketbook Venture. Moreover, we have 2 schools participating in Clinton County, Ohio in their 3rd year. Indeed, you can find almost 50 zip codes on a map where human rights education conversations have taken place at empathysurplus.com, Stronger Americans. Although the Human Rights Pocketbook now resides in all of those zip codes, where our conversations, I would ask, are those conversations taking place? Furthermore, I personally have concentrated on zip codes within shared governing districts. What else can we do to change the brains of our neighbors so that our children's empathy for and responsibility to each other will grow. So who's next? Who was next? Maybe Anita was next, I think.
It's funny, you said you had trouble with this, and I found it to be the one that I related to the most because I, in my career of nursing and in assessing people's physical and mental status of where they are in order to determine what their problems are, I found that it boils down to three things in community that you need to know. And the first one is, does that person have a realistic perception of the events of what's going on? And so now, after studying Lakoff, I realized that my accurate perception of what's going on may not match what they consider their accurate perception about what's going on. And that may sound small, but that's pretty darn huge. And then the second one is always trying to assess a person's coping skills. How are they coping? You know, are they laughing too much? Are they crying too much? Are they not participating? How, you know, when you do your assessment, how are they helping themselves and their family, or how are they hurting themselves and their family? And then, of course, the third one is if people have the situational supports that they need. And after this year of COVID and everything that has come to light and all of the big rocks that have been turned over, exposing all of the bad things that happen and are going on and things that people do to one another or don't do to one another, the way that we help one another is changing, I believe, dramatically and for the better. And I'm very hopeful and I'm very, very, very optimistic for the future of humanity. It's a huge uphill, crazy thing that's going on with climate change being the worst, but also the pandemic. And the pandemic is not going away anytime soon. They're talking about getting immunizations into Africa by 2024.
You got about 30 seconds, Anita.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all I've got. So, but I'm very optimistic because I'm meeting more and more good people all the time that are willing to step up and do something positive. Okay, so Maribeth, are you next?
Okay, can you hear me?
You bet.
I'll turn it up just a little bit. I had it turned down. Okay, well, I kind of look at this from my Neuroscience Academy learnings, and if a message is not received the way we intended, we're always taught, or if someone is acting in a way that we perceive as irrational in communication, the thing that is driven to us is to always be looking for the why. Why is this happening? Not placing blame on any person, but why. And so there are three things we look at, and it's the bottom up, top down, outside in theory. Bottom up is things beyond our control. And that could be genetics. Maybe this person has some mental disorder that does not allow them. I think it's kind of what Anita was alluding to, that there's some mental incapacity there for them to understand what we're saying, or to do better, or to grasp a meaning of something. It could be hormones, it could be illness, poor nutrition, lack of sleep, all of those things that are beyond control. You know, you can certainly improve them, but it's no one's fault. It's just the way it is. Top down has to do with your emotions, your feelings, your mindset, your beliefs. And that goes to that strict father, nurturant father model that we talk about. You know, those things all play a part. And then the outside in are your social support, the stress you're under, life events, those experiences that they color how you perceive things. And then just your education. Are you well educated enough to even understand the message that I'm trying to give you? And so, instead of getting aggravated when the message is not received well, we need to dive deeper and say, well, why? Where's the disconnect? And is there some way I can amend this so that my message is received better? So that's kind of what I looked at it through the neuroscience lens, and that's how we would look at it. Always asking why, not arguing with someone, but not placing blame, but ooh, there's a miscommunication here. Why? Where's the gap, and how do I fix it? So that's all I've got. Who wants to? George? Let's see. Let's do Chuck. Have you gone yet? Oh, you went.
Mhm.
Miriam.
You're muted, Miriam.
Okay, all right. My word or phrase was the receiver doesn't necessarily unpack what the sender packed. And I'm reminded, of course, being a pastor, I think this way, but I'm reminded of Jesus's words where he says over and over again, listen if you have ears to hear. Your ears are fat, they can't hear what I'm saying. Basically what he's saying is, I'm sending this out, my words, my message. Some of you are going to be able to listen to it and hear it, some of you won't. And so I'm thinking when we are messaging, we got to just think that way. Some people are going to get it and some people are not going to get it. And but what Chuck says about framing and repetition is very, very important. So so just saying it over and over in every opportunity that you have about stronger people, stronger America, government of, by, and for the people, so I talked about a bumper sticker that I'd seen that really upset me in the Walmart parking lot earlier. And it said God, guns, and the name of our former president. And, had talked my way back down out of my emotions about it. But I've been thinking about it. And what if I had little index cards with some of our frames and messages on it, and if I ever run into something like that again, just tuck it under the windshield, an appropriate card, and get my message across that way. So that's one idea I had, but just trying to get that message about working together, Commonwealth. Taxes are not a bad thing; they're a good thing. That's our way of helping each other, protecting each other, giving each other services that we need, that are part of human rights for every individual. And
Got about 30 seconds.
so I guess that's it. Thank you.
Greg?
Okay. So the subjectivity continues. Communication is hard. If we really think about it, it's amazing that we ever understand each other. Some people call tissue, the kind that you blow your nose, Kleenex. Some people call flavored carbonated drinks Coke. Some people call all diapers Pampers. In most cases, we still understand what a person means. In more complex situations involving communication, and sometimes not so complex, we often fail to understand each other, and that is where the confusion starts. Dr. Lakoff stated that communication is not as simple as putting an object in a container, which represents an idea, and delivering the container, which represents a word or phrase, and having the appropriate recipient open the container, and get exactly what you delivered. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of what the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said. You cannot step into the same river twice, for other waters are continually flowing on. And it's the same as communication. Not only is what you say being interpreted by the person or persons you're communicating with, but there are a constant barrage of communication that is going on that might also make it difficult for people to understand the message you're trying to get across. It's not only that they may have a different perspective than you, it is also the constant internal dialogue that we're having with ourselves every moment of the day, even when we're not truly aware of it. But that's besides the point. I think the point is, for our purposes at least, is that we have to be very consistent with our message and what we believe, and then our actions should reflect our message in order to reinforce that message, so that over time, people will begin to move toward more of a subjectively objective understanding of your message. That was kind of a tongue twister. So that is one way that we can get across to people that we believe in government of, for, and by the people, that we advocate and believe in caring citizenship through empathy and accountability, honesty, and transparency. Thank you.
So, Tony, anything to share, or you can pass?
No, so I mean, I'm very well versed in, the study of communications as a political science person in college, but I would echo definitely the sentiment that it's amazing that we even understand.
You're breaking up a little bit, Tony.
Oh, sorry. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Or we could. Could. Doggone it.
We're not hearing anything.
We're missing you, Tony. So Anna, do you have
I do. This is actually kind of in my field of neuroscience as a patient. So what I chose was, I don't get a lot of meaning out of what you're saying. So I'm going to read a small segment. Miscommunication, for instance, is not necessarily caused by choosing the wrong words for our ideas. That is, picking the wrong containers for our objects. And that is not just caused by our words not successfully being perceived, read, or heard either. That is, it is not our container didn't make it all the way across to the
interlocutor?
Yes. Those things can happen, but are not the biggest challenge in communication. So from a neuroscience perception, I am an epileptic and I take quite a bit of medication. And so that with having a neuro disorder, a brain disorder, so to speak, it does make my communication harder. I really stumble on words and phrases, how to use, and it gets all jumbled up here. Although I know what I want to say, it doesn't come out the way I want you to hear it. So that can be very frustrating for myself. But if you find the right group of friends, you can communicate wonderfully, and they all either correct you or they understand what you're saying. With being an epileptic, it is all about repetition. And so we may have a conversation last week and I may not remember everything. I may remember segments. We could have a conversation yesterday and I may not remember almost anything of it. And it's very, very, very frustrating, especially when you want to get your point across and you just you sound silly. And so it gets very embarrassing when I fumble upon my words. So that's where the empathy really comes into play. We need to be more patient with people and not just assume that they are ignorant or not necessarily uneducated, because a lot of people, I think it's 1 out of 22 people are epileptic, but almost everybody I know has some kind of health issue. And with the medication that we take can really interrupt the communication parts.
Got about 30 seconds.
So that, like I said, that's where what we say in general, what can come across in my mind is not necessarily what you hear. And then when you repeat that back to me, I'm like, no, I didn't say that. so it's this is a pretty interesting segment. So, but what is up here doesn't always come out correctly. So it does get frustrating when it comes to communicating. There's just a little insight from.
So we're in our discussion section.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any comments or
I
engagements?
I wanted to comment on something that Miriam said in reference to talking to people that you don't have you don't share the same perspective. And what I started doing myself is, I identify as a secular humanist like Anita does. But what I tell people is, even though I identify as a secular humanist, I want to help you embrace your religious belief. But I hope that what you embrace is a nurturant parent perspective in reference to God versus the strict parent perspective when it relates to God, because the nurturant parent is the one that is forgiving and accepting, and so that's kind of how I approach it. So thank you, Miriam, for kind of putting that in my head and kind of by default encouraging me to engage from that perspective, even though my perspective is a little different. But I can appreciate the nurturant parent, paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just let me say, Greg, that was great. That really helped me too. That helped me. Yeah. As a secular humanist. And not wanting to negate other people's beliefs.
Right.
It
doesn't.
As long as they're good.
Yeah, exactly.
So just so you'll know, I identify more with secular humanism, even though I'm ordained. So you can't have a corner on secular humanism, okay? I want to be in there as well,
I get it.
I was reminded as you were talking about knocking on doors and getting people who might have a Trump sign in their yard, signing your petition and wanting to be supportive. I found the exact same experience when I was campaigning for Dean Feldmeyer as county commissioner, and his flyers had, return strong, caring, responsible leadership to county government. Those are mainly that's what you saw on his card. So I'd hand that out and people would read that and they would go, I'm on board. That's, and I walk out and there's the Trump sign. So it just, is a reminder about all of these contested concepts, and if we can stay on course in terms of talking about values, et cetera, and we're engaging personally, we're face to face, et cetera, there may be hope. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it was my experience. You know, what's interesting too in this particular county, and you know, our group is a nonpartisan. You know, we're a nonpartisan organization, and we don't endorse any candidates or ballot initiatives or any of that kind of stuff. I remember though in my particular county that our polarization during the primaries a few years ago was between Bernie and Trump, and so we were pretty, you know, we were pretty clean in terms of separations, I guess, in terms of. But when anyway, I just thought that was interesting that you're having that experience, Greg.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say one more thing. We reached this time in our life where we have had the drive to do what we do, to come together like this and to try to improve the world as we can. But and we see people that have got a Trump sign in their yard, and we, at this point, it's hard not to just kind of blow it off, you know, like, oh, you know, what are they thinking? And I know so many people who are good people who are so busy working, trying to make a living, who, if they turn on NPR news, they don't know what's going on. They do not relate to, they do not understand what the news is saying to them. And it's not because they're stupid, it's because they have not had the time, the opportunity, and perhaps someone else to talk to in order to clarify some of these issues in their brain. So we can't just blow people off because we think that that's the base they're coming from and they won't ever change. So.
And the beauty of what I'm doing right now is I'm able to use the language that we use here.
Yes.
You know, as I was talking to somebody, some people were challenging me on why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I said I believe in government, you know, of and for and by the people. And I started, and I just said it, you know, so quickly that I didn't realize that I'm using the language that we use here. So it's very funny, and I started talking about and I started talking about, you know, I am not here, you know, as a true politician because you know, I'm here for the people. You know, I'm hoping that caring citizens can help me help them keep the community nice and safe and in a place that we want to live in. And one person, I left them and I said, I want to leave you with one of my favorite guitarists' famous saying, and that is, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. And I said, I can't speak to the world, but I can speak to this community. So.
Very nice.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's wonderful.
You know, I would like to add though, you know, as you're talking to people and you're getting disgusted, and I'm going to use Anna as an example. Anna delightfully knows where the gap is and hopefully is around kind people, like she said, her circle of friends that she gathers that understand and support her and help her. But as we talk to people, a lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Right.
It's fortunate because she knows.
Yes.
And she can say, oh, wait, I've got to regroup here.
Yeah.
Do over, please. And that's,
hold on.
And that's wonderful. That's wonderful because most people don't have that luxury. And just communicate, and we don't hear and we don't listen because we get put off. I mean, she could say something that she, you know, and it came across the wrong way, and all of a sudden, you know, somebody says, well, I don't like her because I don't like the way she said that. And that could be happening as we converse, as you converse with your neighbor who's ultra conservative, you know, you just don't know, you don't know. And so I just think we all need to be concentrating on why. I'll use the example a few weeks ago. I think it was just Greg and Chuck and I, and the nurturing parent thing kept coming, or nurturing father.
Yeah.
And finally I said to them, I said, you know, that would not be a comforting phrase to my 8th grader in Chicago who was being raped by her father.
Right.
That would, and she's 30 some years old now. That would be, oh, don't even talk to me. I don't even want to hear what you have to say. But we don't know that.
Right.
And
That's why I say nurturing parent.
Yeah,
Right.
but we wouldn't know. The mother was just as bad.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And so, you know, using that phrase, even nurturant parent would be like, I don't have a wiring in my brain for that. I don't know what that is. That sounds so foreign to me. I can't even talk to you. And so that's why we have to get down to that why, instead of reacting to that Trump sign. You know, why do you feel like that person is good? And really listen.
Right.
You know, why?
Yep.
Why, until we get to the bottom of it, we're not going to change it. You know, I don't think repeating this over and over again, you know, like I said, you could repeat nurturant father 1,000 times to Becky, and Becky's still going to say, get out of my face. That's the ugliest thing I've ever heard.
Right.
So we just don't know. We you know, and that's why we need to take the time to get to know people and know.
That's why we have to be willing to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The other problem I have, that's a really big problem actually, is I honestly believe that my brain moves a little faster than verbally, because I don't know why this happens. It's so frustrating, but a lot of words that I say, I could say 2 words and it comes out as one. The 2 words that just don't mix well at all. You're like, what? No. No, I didn't mean to say that. So I understand it can get frustrating for the other party, and you're absolutely right. You know, most people understand what you're saying until you actually either correct yourself, or they're true enough friends, or understand what the heck you're going through. So, but yeah.
Well, we've
I
reached the end.
Okay.
We've reached the end. I can hesitate for a minute.
Well, I just wanted to say that I just feel so grateful that both Tony shared that he has dealt with depression, and Anna sharing about her epilepsy. And, you know, this shows us that we are getting to a deeper level of communication with each other. And you're seeing it more and more in the wider world too, that people are saying, you know, well, I do suffer from depression, or right now I'm suffering from depression. So you know, my daughter is dyslexic, and so we have, you know, dyslexic moments in our household. You know, oh, that's a dyslexic moment when somebody. So, a little bit of humor helps too. So.
Yeah. Very
All
good.
righty.
Another great
So
meeting.
I'll pull this up here real quick. So glad everybody could make it, especially Tony. Maybe audio will be better next week. And I'm a caring citizen.
I
Empathy.
I hear
highly
how
resolved this nation
under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government
by the people, for the people shall not perish from this earth.
I am
I am a person with human rights.
I
care for my own safety and happiness and that of others.
I'm the
I am
I am the solution to expanding life, liberty,
and
for the
for
support
the
of
support of
this
this
declaration,
declaration,
joining caring citizens known and unknown, mutually pledge to each other our lives, fortunes, and our sacred honor. Well,
sorry about that, I sneezed.
so good to see everybody.
Yes.
Have a great week, and see you next week.
All right.
All right, see you next week.
Bye-bye.